Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just doing some work on this R60/6. I've been through the engine and the electrics and a whole bunch of stuff, changed all the cables. I've just changed the brake cable. The owner tells me he's had the drum apart and cleaned and lubed everything. However, it's very hard to find any real information about adjusting and setting these things up. I mean, it's there somewhere, I'm sure, but a cursory view of YouTube won't find it. I do think Dwayne Asherman or Oak Okelson, one of those two, has got a very good descriptive thing on the web if you look that up. But this is just a basic to show you. They're twin leading shoes, so very good brake these were in their day. Very strong, particularly when they're cold. Like any drum brake, when they're properly hot, they don't work quite as well. There are a couple of things that you need to know if you're going to get any performance out of these at all. The first one is that if you have a look very closely there, you'll see a pop mark there. That's usually on the front spline on all of the drums. This one was worn quite thin, so I just hit it with a spring-loaded pop punch just to make it more obvious. And that should line up with the gap in the pinch on that lever. The back one doesn't have the same thing, although it does now because I've marked it. And what you have to do, if this thing here, this adjuster, is the most misunderstood thing on the planet. It has a lock nut on it, and it has I think it's a 4mm bit that goes in there. And this one had the same thing that's happened to every other one that doesn't work that I've ever had in here. It was adjusted clockwise until this lever locked up completely. Now, that simply means that the front lining will not touch the inside of the drum. It's locked, it can't move. So the preload on these has to be set anti-clockwise. Now if you watch this lever as I move it anti-clockwise, you see what happens? It comes in, and as it comes in, it's actually pushing the lining, the brake lining, out onto the drum. So you want to be moving this around so it's got just a little tiny bit of play, and by a little tiny bit I mean you just should be able to rock it and move it just with your hand. Now I'm going to put pause the video and then adjust this and show you what it should look like. Right, we're back again, and now what I've done is I've moved that adjuster anti-clockwise. It's a snail cam, so what it's done is the inside of that's driven by that 4mm hex head, it runs around in an increasing radius like a snail shell, and as I've turned it anti-clockwise, it's pushed against the back of the brake shoe and actually moved it out onto the drum, so that now where I've adjusted it will be okay. The real way to do it is to have the front wheel suspended, and you want to adjust that cam out so that first of all it starts just rubbing on the inside of the drum when you spin the wheel, and you back it off so it's just not rubbing, just barely not rubbing. That will give you the most amount of brake that you're going to. It won't change the braking efficiency, but it will change the pickup point for the brake. So this has got just a smidgen of movement in it. I can just move it. You can't even see me move it, but it probably moves at the end of this lever about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch, which will be fine as far as what we want it to do goes. Now the back lever doesn't have a pop mark on it. Well, it does now because I've just popped it a minute ago. And the rule is that these should be about when they're like adjusted like they are now, they should be roughly about 170mm, roughly, from eye to eye, centre, roughly. It's only rough, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. But the way that this brake works is that this cable will go through here, through two bobbins that go in here, and the idea is when you pull the lever, because the stronger spring in the brake assembly, it's got a strong spring and a weak spring, the stronger spring goes to the front. So when you pull on the brake, this spring resists more than this one, so this one will move first and put the brakes on by putting the back shoe against the drum. Once that happens, as soon as you pull the lever a little bit tighter, it will overcome this spring because this is now pushing against the drum and pull the front shoe onto the drum. So when I put the cable in here, I'll be adjusting this so it is just running free also, just barely running free, with about an 1/8 of an inch to a 1/4 of an inch of movement at the lever in the hand, at the hand lever. I know it sounds all sort of back to front, but I was only just doing this, and it's a fairly difficult thing to explain properly, but I'm just trying to help. Now, if you have to shift this, I've already done it. Undo this nut, take the bolt off here, take this radius arm off, and then you'll be able to move the drum around. Oh, you've got to undo the pinch bolt and the axle bolt. You'll be able to move the drum around and take that out. Now, you can't just loosen those Allen bolts. You've got to take them right out because there's a groove in the spline to locate the actuating levers. But you take it out. If you move this one spline, just one spline around, it moves this nearly half an inch, about whatever that is, 12 mil or something like that. So once you get it, so you're about 170 mil centre to centre in there, in the relaxed position, put a pop mark in here, like I've done. If I can get it, you see? So that if you ever have to take it off for any reason, you can put it back in the same place. Make sure that they are in the right spot. Don't forget, this nut locks it, this hex adjusts it. If you adjust it clockwise, it will lock up and you'll think you've done it, but all you've actually succeeded in doing is locking this front brake off. So it has to be adjusted anti-clockwise so you can pull that lever and move it in. You only want a very small amount of play in there. You want to be able to easily rotate that, but have the shoes very close to the drum so that when you pull on the hand lever, this one comes in first and comes on. As soon as it touches the drum and begins to bite, it'll pull this one, and that's why these were such good brakes. Stay well, ride safely until we talk again.